And welcome into the JUCO Rush, powered by Pepsi. I'm Mike Fraser. He's Robert Williamson. Championship week, brother Robert. Just what an epic game. This has all the indicators. Iowa Western going for the three-peat. Never been done in the NJCAA. These are two coaches that they're on Mount Rushmore. You throw those two guys up with Buddy Stevens. I mean, these guys are the guys when it comes to coaching, and they go at it, and it's a healthy relationship. These two guys get along. Anyway, Robert, welcome into the JUCO Rush. Wow, the two top teams going to face each other later on this week.
We are finally there. It all started in August, and here we are in December, culmination of the season. And, sometimes you might question, do you have the top two teams meeting one another in the championship? There's no question about it where these two are concerned. You have got the two best teams in JUCO football meeting for the title.
And the schedules they've played, these two teams didn't shy away from anything. Kansas playing in their conference, Iowa Western stepping out, having to go play teams from around the country, and both teams just come out of it with one loss. I mean, these two guys, think about it. They're all Americans. They can coach. They're terrific situational game coaches. You have to recruit. You have to put together quality staffs, Robert. I mean, these guys have to hit them all to get to where they are on a regular basis, and they do.
And you got to love the matchup from the perspective of, marquee coaches, Drew Dallas, Scott Strohmeyer. You got marquee players in Hunter Deckers for Iowa Western and Wayman Jordan of Hutch, who, by the way, are two finalists for the JUCO Weekly Trophy. And then you've got all those other components involved. Great offensive, defensive players. I mean, this is just one heck of a ball game. Looking forward to it on Wednesday.
Yeah, and then also Will Cornelson, the linebacker from Tyler, 126 total tackles. Robert, I look back in the history books of the NJCAA, and I go defensively now. I can go back to 2006. There's nobody in the NJCAA on the defensive side that matched or surpassed Will Cornelson in total tackles and tackles for loss. That combination, nobody has surpassed him or tied him. And that goes back to 2006. These are three quality guys that are finalists for the JUCO Weekly Trophy.
And by the way, quality guys off the football field too. I mean, these are just great guys, and you like to see the great guys win. So those great guys all have a chance in winning that trophy. So, man, what a season. What a battle for that particular trophy, and what a battle we will see on Wednesday between the Reavers and the Blue Dragons.
Yeah, one guy that we love to have on, we get him on once or twice a year, Charles Chaney. And he sat down with the JUCO Rush to break down this championship football game. And, Robert, Chaney is a guy that you love to have on, very opinionated. And people listen. Some like what he has to say, some don't. That's what we love, right?
Indeed. And here's that interview, the conversation with Chuck Chaney.
Joining us now is Charles Chaney. Charles, congratulations, your promotion. You are now national reporter for Cherry Road Media. Really happy for you, man. How you been?
Oh, man, I'm amazing. And I'm very excited about that. I be the lead person for all of our papers that are a really small growing company, but it's fun. I'm excited.
All right, let's jump into it, man. Iowa Western and Hutchinson. Want to know what your takeaways were from both teams when you watched both playoff games last week.
I knew both teams were really good, and I predicted both teams win by double digits, but it's the way they dominated. You look at the way Hutch I feel like they blitzed, like figuratively blitzed their opponent. I mean, they go to Georgia, a really good rushing team, and they just kind of shut them down. I mean, and defense just forced turnovers. They made big plays. They didn't make mistakes, it felt like. And then you look at Wayman Jordan Jr., who's up for one of the awards. He kind of ran crazy. In the first half, he had like 140 yards on 7 carries, and he just made sure his play was impactful. And then you got some Samari Collier, who is just one of the best dual threats in the country, and you can see why he's on Coastal. And then you look at Iowa Western; they are just so dominant offensively. I think of, like, for NCAA comparisons, you have to look at the 2019 LSU Tigers, right? The way Joe Burrow was to be dominant on the football field. That's the way Hunter Decker and his Reavers are. I mean, they are hard to stop, and I'm super excited for Wednesday.
Chuck, compare Wayman Jordan to prior running backs, not only at the JUCO level, but he's a guy from Escambia High that had Emmett Smith, Trent Richardson. Is Wayman Jordan in an exclusive class?
Yeah, I look at him and I'm like, why is he a JUCO? Like obviously there's stuff that's behind the scenes that we don't know about. It's his private stuff, but sometimes kids just don't get the exposure. I look at, he's not a running back, but Ben Powers, who is a offensive lineman in the NFL, he had 0 offers. So he went to Butler. He was there one semester, and then he went to Oklahoma, and then he went to the NFL. Sometimes kids just need the exposure. And so for whatever reason, Hutch has been blessed by getting such a really good running back. And you look at I look at him and Collier, same thing. He came back from the Division I level after being away for spring, and he's like, hey, I need a little bit more grooming. I need a little bit more growth. And so he's like, hey, I'm back. And they're both just this duo, like, bang, bang, pick your poison. And it's why Jordan is at Hutch is beyond my knowledge, but they're very blessed. And everybody I talk to at Hutch is just so thrilled that he's there. And I would say the same thing for Hunter Deckers, why he's at JUCO. Like, after being a starter at Iowa State, he's one of the most prolific passers in junior college football history. And I say that with a lot of confidence, and I say history. We're looking at 2 of the best players of all time right now, between Hunter Deckers and Wayne Jordan Jr.
You kind of answered my next question by bringing up Hunter, because obviously he's the marquee guy for Iowa Western, Wayman Jordan for Hutch. So when you got a marquee guy on both sides of the football, is it about those other pieces that are going to determine who wins the national championship?
Yeah, and that's where, like, I've seen Hutch a few times because I live in Kansas. Hutch's ability to rotate their defense out, they do it in such, like, waves. Like, they do hockey wave substitutions with that defensive line. And their one loss, they turn Samari didn't play, and they turned the ball over like 6 times. And so was their big deal. And so it took a lot, and they only lost by like 6 or 7. So it takes a lot for their one loss. And you look at Iowa Western's one loss. It was a shootout versus Hutch, and they still were in the game. They had a 2-point conversion to tie it at the very end of the game. So I think it comes down to defense. I think whatever defense is going to make the big plays, and I know this sounds very generic and very cliche as a reporter, but it's true. I mean, at this level, we are in December. We're almost to January. A lot of these kids, almost every one of these starters on Wednesday night will be enrolled at a Division I school or Division II school in a month. So this is their last chance to make an impact moment. I've got to leave it all out there in West Texas.
Charles Chaney joining us, national reporter for Cherry Road Media here on the JUCO Rush. All right, Charles, break it down. Who's going to win? Tell us why.
I'm going Hutch. I mean, I could be maybe a Kansas homer, but because I watch a lot of football. Like, I watch 2 or 3 games on Thursday night. And then on Saturday, Sunday, I go back and I watch a couple of games. I watch Hutch, or I watch at Garden City at Dodge City. I'm a big fan of what they're doing out there at Dodge City with that coach Ryan Lesby. So I try to be informed, and I just like Hutch's defense. Their linebackers are fast, they're quick. They can be Bama speed linebackers in terms of JUCO. Last year, when they got eliminated for the playoffs by Eastern Michigan, they didn't have a secondary. They were hurt. They were banged up. They're healthy this year. And then we kind of saw how fast they were able to kind of go for 15 yards at safety to the line of scrimmage against that rushing attack at Georgia Military. So I'm going Hutch, because I think they've won 3 out of the last, or 2. In the regular season, they won 2 out of the last 3 versus them. So we're going to see. And I don't know. I said that last year too, and look what Iowa Western did. Or 2 years ago, look what Iowa Western did. So
Mike, I guess you're waiting on my response from the standpoint, I'm an Iowa Western guy. And listen, man, Chuck brings up great points from a football strategic perspective. I've got just this. I'm a simple man. I have a simple formula. It's Scott Strohmeyer. I mean, he just finds a way to win football games and wins them in ways that sometimes you don't think he can pull out of his hat, but he does. So, yeah, Hutch, man, what a great team, but I got to go with Scott and Iowa Western.
Guys, you look at these two coaches, they're phenomenal. I mean, you're looking at Drew Dallas with 50 wins. You've got Scott Strohmeyer trying to go for the trifecta. Just in the last 30 seconds, Robert, talk about the Mount Rushmore of coaching at this stage in junior college athletics with these two guys.
Well, I'm kind of like Chuck was where Hunter and Wayman are concerned. Why are these two guys still at the junior college level? Man, they are just tremendous coaches. Drew Dallas, 5 losses in 5 years, not 5 wins, 5 losses in 5 years for Drew Dallas. And then, of course, Strohmeyer, man, he just finds a way to put the right pieces together and come up with championship teams.
Chuck, 20 seconds.
Yeah, I've talked to Scott about that. I did an interview for JUCO a few years ago about him, and he goes, I just love where I'm at. They have provided the resources, and that's why he's grown this prolific program. And Drew, he is a Kansas kid, so I'm not surprised. His dad coached in Kansas, so like with him being in Kansas. But they're great for the sport, and they're great for the level that we're at, and I think they're almost perfect for what the level needs.
Charles, thanks for jumping on the JUCO Rush.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Brett Monoghan joins us from the NJCAA. The national championship game at the junior college level is next week on the 18th as Hutchinson and Iowa Western meet for the title. Brett, if that game is just half the billing of what it was when they played earlier this year, the NJCAA wins again big time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I had a chance to run out to Council Bluffs on Friday night and watch the matchup with Northwest Mississippi, and Iowa Western really flexed their muscles, especially in the second half there, and watched the production on ESPN Plus when Hutch went down to Georgia Military this weekend. And two very good offensive teams, but I think more importantly, what you watch their defensive do in the second half in both those games really flexed their muscles that way. So two of the best teams, certainly, I think, in all of junior college, and really two of the best athletic departments, honestly, in all of the NJCA as well. So excited to be part of that game down in Canyon, Texas next week.
Brent, I've asked this question of coaches. I have not asked it of someone that's really right in the thick of things with the NJCAA, and maybe it's just me, but it feels like there is just this renewed interest in junior college athletics. I mean, the crowds look bigger. They're more energetic. And you're talking about maybe the introduction for some of a league that's been in existence for 60 plus years. Is it just me, or does there seem to be this new level of energy?
Well, I hope it's not just you. I hope we're seeing that from a lot of places. I think one of the unique things that has happened at the national office the last several years, under Chris Parker's leadership, is really that exposure piece, right? We've really tried to get the brand out there. So whether it's the relationship with ESPN, where we've been able to get our broadcast, not just for football, but a number of our championships out to a wider market across the country. But I think there's also been some real intention within the office from a marketing standpoint of really trying to get our name out there, because as you both well know, football, of course, is an area that really produces a lot of high-level young men that go on to the Division I level, among other levels every year. But that's really happening across the board in the NJCAA. We are producing student athletes that are helping Division I, Division II, NAI programs win national championships annually. And so I appreciate that you're noticing that. I think there's been a lot of work done over the last several years to get us to that point.
I like the selection for the championship game of the Bain Schaefer Buffalo Stadium. I like the size of the stadium. Was that by happenstance, or was it by design as well?
Yeah, so full transparency, I wasn't part of that process. I didn't come on board with the national office until this past summer. But I think what you saw in hit in recent years with War Memorial down there in Arkansas. It was so large, cavernous maybe is a good word. And, I think there's a pretty good understanding that we're not going to fill a 50,000 seat stadium for a NJCAA football game. And so you think about the intimacy of a place like West Texas A&M, a staff that puts on football games at a facility size like that on a regular basis in the fall. And so I definitely think there was some thought put into that. And I think moving forward, that's something that we want to consider with all of our championships, find that high level venue, but also find that venue that speaks to the NJCA, speaks to our level of play, that gives those student athletes a great experience while they're on site.
Brett, short term, what are some of the goals of the NJCAA from a marketing standpoint, and just for from a standpoint of continuing to get the brand out there for football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, etc.?
Yeah, one of the things we've talked a lot about since I came on board is tell our story, and as simple as that is, and again, you gentlemen know this, we have great stories every single day in the NJCAA, whether that's a young man or young woman that has moved on, that's maybe getting ready to participate in a Division I bowl, or as part of the new 12-team national championship at the Division I level. There are currently NJCAA volleyball regionals happening right now, and there are young women that played at our level the last couple of years that are actively helping teams win in the postseason. And so, that's the athletic side, but then there's also some great stories where these young men and women come from, and how they got to where they are in the NJCAA, and how we're helping them reach their goals and get that education and move on to the 4-year level to the dream school and find those opportunities, and what took place before they've got to the NJCAA or that specific member institution, and specific to them, maybe some of the trials and tribulations that they ran through, as a young man or young woman trying to get to that point, and really using the NJCAA institution as a jumping off point or a launching pad, if you will, to get them to where we want to go. So really trying to focus in on those individual stories and the successes of the young people that come through our member institutions, and what happens to them while they're with us, after they've left us, and then, really where they end up long-term, as a young professional.
The synergy, the chemistry that the NJCAA office seems to have with multiple conferences in multiple sports around the country is pretty remarkable, because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities and a lot of different, people have their own, they're pushing their school. I know there's a balance to that, but on the outside, Brett, it seems to be in harmony for the most part.
Yeah, I think for us, it is really about working together. We are a membership, and we're a very membership-driven organization. So while we do a lot of the work in the national office, a lot of the decision-making that truly does happens with our member institutions. And that means that coaches, athletic directors, conference commissioners, you name it, they're generally working together to help drive the NJCAA forward. And I think there's some uniqueness with that, because we're not a very big office. A lot of people don't know that there's less than 30 of us that work at the national office. And so we are super reliant on those folks in our association to work together in the best interest of everybody that's involved. And that's not always there's not always a perfect solution. And obviously different folks have different ideas about how things should go. But I think in general, if you come to our national convention, you watch our sports committees work, they are working together for the greater good of the student athletes that come to our member institutions. And, it truly is a beautiful thing to see, and a great thing to be a part of.
Brett, thanks so much for jumping on the JUCO Rush. It was fantastic to have you. And we are excited about watching this epic game already between Hutch and Iowa Western. I think it's great for the NJCAA just to see the great talent that's going to be littered across that field in an intimate environment. So congrats on you guys making that happen. And we wish you and the NJCAA all the best.
Very good.
And there you have it, Brett Monoghan of the NJCAA. And Robert, it is going to be just an epic football game. A couple takeaways when we spoke with Brett. One, the branding and the marketing, phenomenal, remarkable. What Chris Parker, what Brett, what Zach, and the group at the NJCAA out in Charlotte has done in recent years is really special. They have really put this NJCAA brand front and center.
Agreed. I mean, they put it on a platform with ESPN Plus to where it is reaching a much broader audience. Previously, maybe it's mom and dad and a handful of other folks that are watching the ball games. Now you've got a national, if not an international audience with the ESPN Plus platform. So, yeah, kudos to Chris Parker and staff for a job well done. And I think we're seeing, as Brett alluded to, seeing the fruits of those labors.
Look, in West Texas A&M, in Canyon, Texas, the host, I love that setting. Brett talked about that as well. You commented about that last year. It's just going to be a good look for this championship game.
It's kind of an expanded Georgia Military College Hutch setting. If you'll recall for that ball game, man, it's packed out. That's the look that you want. An audience that may not be particularly familiar with the NJCAA, that's the kind of look you want. It creates interest, energy, and I think that's what we're going to get on a larger scale there in Texas on Wednesday.
And you talk about Georgia military, boy, Rob Manchester, that crowd was just incredible. The stands were filled. They were 6, 7, 8 deep, roped off on the sidelines on both sides of the field in the end zones. That was a great look. I mean, the solid effort. And I know you covered Georgia military games. You probably see that regularly. That's the first time I've seen that. Was very happy for Rob, and it was a great look for NJCAA football.
And, and it does create something in your mind. I'll watch games like some of these spring football leagues where they've got outstanding players, outstanding productions, but you see the cameras scan the crowd and it's kind of puny, and it just puts this, it's a subpar league. So, yeah, I think this full house will enhance the image of the NJCAA.
The JUCO Weekly Trophy presentation will be Tuesday night in Canyon, Texas, during the football banquet, as Iowa Western and Hutchinson will get together in a room for that. The 3 finalists in alphabetical order are Tyler linebacker Will Cornelison. Also, you look at a quarterback from Iowa Western, Hunter Deckers, the running back from Hutchinson, Wayman Jordan Jr., and they all eclipsed milestones. We talked about Will earlier. Hunter, 3,413 passing yards. Best in 7 years. And then when you factor in that completion percentage, the man is in rarefied air. Wayman Jordan Jr. had a list, Robert, that he wanted to accomplish when the season started. 1,200 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns, 8 yards a rush. He wanted explosive plays, at least 2 a game. He hit all those targets. These 3 guys, in the young history of the JUCO Weekly Trophy, these guys are iconic. These guys are top shelf people competing for that JUCO Weekly Trophy Tuesday night.
And again, congratulations, Hunter, Wayman, and Will. But I want to focus, before we leave, on Mike Frazier. Mike, it was your brainchild. And I got to admit, I'm jealous. I wish I'd come up with this great idea, because junior college football needed a Heisman Trophy winner, if you will. And you came up with the idea, carried it to fruition. You gave feet to a dream. And I got to say, a tip of the hat to you, because these guys much deserved in recognition. But heck, if you hadn't put the trophy together and the process together, they wouldn't be getting recognized on this national scale. So kudos to you for a job well done.
Well, thanks for that. But the promotion of this event could not reach the heights it's reached without the NJCAA, number one. Number two, the journey, the 3-month watch list of promoting multiple guys on that list gives attention to those guys as well. So it's not just about, here are the 3 finalists. There were dozens of other players that were on that watch list on a weekly basis. And that also is just as important, because the whole purpose of this JUCO Weekly Trophy is to be another beacon, another avenue, another conduit to promote what a league and players that largely get taken for granted and that are underestimated. And guys like you and I, Robert, we love the little guy. These guys are stud players. They get into the NJCAA. So that's really the purpose of doing this. So 3 rock stars that are finalists, and we'll see who wins it on Tuesday. I did not have a vote in the award. I just oversaw the process and making sure the committee followed the guidelines. So I appreciate your kind words, but this is really about the NJCAA and about these players. And I'm stoked, man. I'm pumped to see these 3 guys here later on this week down in Canyon, Texas, Robert.
Good luck, Hutch, Iowa Western. Good luck, Hunter, Wayman, and Will. And, man, looking forward to a championship on Wednesday.
He's Robert Williamson from Florella, Alabama. I'm Mike Frazier from downtown Chicago. This has been the JUCO Rush. Special thanks to these guys right here, Allen Beverages and Gulfport. Without these guys, we wouldn't be here. Special thanks to those and to Pepsi, as they are proud supporters not only of the JUCO Rush, but understand how important and what a value that a community college education is, and also the opportunities that it provides for many student athletes across the country on the athletic field. For Robert Williamson, I'm Mike Frazier. So long, everybody.